I just returned from a brief trip to Philadelphia for a funeral, and I stayed with my brothers and sisters. And we all got together for 4th of July. It was very good timing. And I can assure you that Jesus is absolutely correct. No prophet is without honor except in his own hometown. I could give you examples, but I won't because we're being filmed, and I'm afraid one of my brothers or sisters or in-laws will be looking at these sermons. But it's the truth. I learned this a long time ago when I was a brash, young, know-it-all seminarian coming home for the summer, and was quite quickly put into my place. But it's interesting that this is the situation which has continued in the history of Jesus and his relationship with all of us, because who are the kin of Jesus at this moment? It's us. This is the family that he has called together. We call it a church. The Hebrews had another word for it, but it was those who were called together by God, irrespective of their family relationships, their nationalities, or their backgrounds. And I would suggest that perhaps the same problems that faced Jesus with his own family in Nazareth also is a problem for the family of Jesus today. What is the basic problem here? Well, of course, he was the son of a craftsman, and in their mentality, that's where you stayed. You don't become a lawyer or a doctor. That's brash, that's uppity, I guess we would say. You stay where you are. If you're poor, you stay poor. If you're learned, you can become learned, if your father was. And I think this is what happens sometimes with us, with our relationship with Christ, or even worse, with the Father, that we put him in a box. Perhaps early on in life we put God in a box, and we never let him out. We always relate to him as we first appreciated him, came to know him. And let's face it, most of us came to know God sort of as a policeman, superior, or somebody bigger than us, more powerful than us, stronger than us. And if that has set in, then the relationship can't really deepen. And I think it's the same with Jesus. I mean, if we only know Jesus the way we first knew Jesus, then I think the relationship is in trouble. Because relationships are meant to expand, to grow, to deepen. Think of marriage. It's never this, well, unfortunately it is sometimes the same years later. But that's not good, because it doesn't bring out the best in both parties. And if we have permitted ourselves to box in God, inadvertently, I'm sure we don't do this on purpose, then the relationship is prevented from deepening and growing. And that's exactly what our relationship with God is meant to do. It's to deepen. It's to become more loving, more intimate, more inward. It doesn't say we do away with the outward signs. We have to get together as a family. 4th of July in Philadelphia last week, We have to get together of a Sunday morning to celebrate the Lord's presence among us, because his presence for us is just like it was for Paul. Paul never met Christ. So he had to come into his relationship with him in another way than from personal exposure. And so I guess that what I'm suggesting is that we have to be very careful that we don't box God or his Christ in. Well, how do we unbox them? How do we take the lid off? Well, I think we practice with each other. As long as you do it to one of these, the least of my brothers or sisters, you're doing it to me, he said a bit in another context. Sometimes, not sometimes, very often we box each other in. We don't permit each other to be any different than we knew each other years ago. No room for growth, no room for expansion. We're seeing this in our national political life, aren't we? If you're a Democrat, you're a liberal. No, you're not a liberal, you're a screaming liberal. Okay? And if you're a Republican, you're intransigent. And if everybody boxes everybody in that way, there's never any dialogue, there's never any communication, there's no ability to deepen our understanding of the other, and there's no compromise in political matters, and so we come to stalemates. And if that's the way we are with each other, that could be the way it is with God. He usually breaks through, though. I mean, God has a way of breaking into our lives. That's what St. Paul was talking about there, the thorn in the flesh, you know. Unless it's to keep him from becoming too uppity, I guess, he had some kind of a problem. We don't know what it was. And it kept him aware of his weakness and his relationship with God, which was good, because then the relationship could grow. So we need to practice with each other, letting each other out of the box. And if we can do it with each other, you can be certain we will do it with God.